the Alternative Voice. This week, we have I.C. Collins IV. And now your host, Valerie Martens.
Hi, and welcome to the Alternative Voice. I'm Valerie Martens, your host. I have with me today Mr. I.C. Collins IV. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally reached where I wanted to be today.
Good.
Right here doing the podcast.
That's good.
Cool. So, you just downloaded some new music. You just got a couple songs now on YouTube.
Yep.
You want to tell me a little bit about them?
Yeah. So, I just started. I've been writing for a few years, but up until this February, I didn't have any of my own music. I had some music with my band For the Birds, but I had nothing that was solo. So I was like, it's just my time to do it.
Right.
And yeah, I've been writing a whole bunch since February, and I got 2 songs that are out, but I mean, my project's almost done. My album is really close. Yeah, it's really close.
So what made you decide to do your own thing?
A lot of it was necessity, because I move at a certain pace,
right,
and not everybody in my band moves at that same pace. And I wanted to, also write things my way. Because when you're in a band, you have to. It's almost like being married, I've been told.
Right.
I've never been married, but that's what I've been told. See, there's a lot of compromise.
Right.
And I have a very specific vision with how I want my music to go.
Right.
And ironically enough, I'm still finding out what that means along the way. But regardless of that, I want to be able to do things when I wanted to do it. And that kind of spurred, that to go.
So are you just doing it on your own? Are you hoping to get a label?
So, honestly, I'm seeing how it goes. As far as on my own, like when I start performing more, it would be a mixture of like having a DJ and also maybe even having like a full band one day.
Right.
I haven't left anything, like I'm cool with however it goes, honestly.
So have you done any performances?
I've performed the specific songs maybe 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of my time is still devoted to, For the Birds and me and Tony's acoustic project, One Stone.
Yeah.
And also just to writing, what I feel like I'm writing is better than even those songs. So I'm still writing and getting material down to where I have...
Learning curve.
Well, that's a learning curve, but I'm getting to the point now where I want to have a solid set to where I perform. It's not like, oh, he's just doing 2 songs. Like, oh, okay, here's 45 minutes.
So you're not gonna... You want to do all original when you perform?
Yeah, mostly. There is 1 or 2 covers that I have in mind that I've never played before, and frankly, I've never even learned. But I think they'd be really cool ones to do. But yeah, primarily I want to be a solo artist.
Awesome. Well, I noticed Elevate is one that really caught my attention. I've listened to both, and I love them both.
Yeah.
But as I was puttering around one day and I'm listening to Elevate, I think I had the headphones in, the lyrics really started catching me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, not everybody talks like this,
Right.
And so one of the ones that intrigued me was about you being a guide or a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like there's a higher purpose to this music?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to just write about bullshit.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah, I agree.
I have to have some type of attachment to the lyrics, and the stuff that I do write about, it's stuff that I either study or it's stuff that's interesting to me.
Right.
Or, sometimes it's stuff I go through. And,
Right.
So I feel like at least with how this music's turning out with my album, with all the other songs that are on this album,
Right.
I definitely feel like there's a higher purpose to spur people into not just learning more,
Right.
but, also exploring themselves, being adventurous and, taking risks and, really, really delving into, that shadow side.
Right.
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
I do know.
Honestly.
My podcast, my last month's podcast was about frequency.
Yeah.
And we know that frequency and vibration is important.
Yeah.
Nikola Tesla said, anything you want to know about the universe breaks down into vibration, frequency, and energy.
Huh.
And that includes us.
Yeah.
And so people are starting to awaken to these ideas, and they're, I feel like, awakening to how is the world really? Is it what we think it is?
Yeah.
Is it what we've been told? And I think there's a lot out there to explore.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, my thing is getting people to become the best version of them.
Yeah.
While trying to be change that we need to see in the world right now.
Yeah.
And doing the shadow work.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You gotta kind of bring it all together. As far as integrating your masculine and your feminine side to be
Right.
the whole being.
Be a whole being, yeah.
Do you feel like, that's a little bit part of your mission, is to kind of get people to wake up and
Yeah, like the biggest part, I think, when it comes to my music, in regards to that, is the fact that there's so much hidden potential,
right,
and we're all masked in fear.
right,
Fear. There's levels to fear, and fear guides a lot of people's decisions. I would say everybody's decisions, on some level, there's a lot of fear behind it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like, death and the afterlife. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
But when it comes to fear, there's a lot of things, a lot of potential we have, but we block ourselves. And there's a quote, I can't remember where I heard it from, but I'll just use King Arthur for example. So the Knights of the Round Table,
right,
there's a part in that story where King Arthur and the knights, they go to a forest, and each one enters the forest only to where it looks darkest to him. So if me and you were in the forest, you would
Right.
go where it looks darkest to you, I would go where it looks darkest to me, and inevitably we'd go in two different directions.
right,
And to me, what that symbolizes is that, whatever's the hardest thing or the scariest thing for you to do, it's probably what you need to be doing.
yeah,
And, once I started realizing that in myself and taking the leaps of faith and like being, courageous in those things,
yeah,
and it's a daily process, but like
Oh,
just
yeah.
being courageous and doing those things, I've experienced elevation. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That makes sense.
So
That makes sense. Absolutely.
yeah.
One of the other things that I want to talk about is how difficult it can be as an artist,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in Wichita,
Mm-hmm.
to do something different, to be something different.
Yeah.
Is it hard to break in? Is it hard to get gigs? Is it hard to play?
So in the early days of For the Birds, it was kind of hard. So when we first formed For the Birds, we were always told like, hey, you're not going to get any work unless you play covers. Well, we only knew like 5-6 covers, and they were all like Sublime and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
And so we're like, dude, we're an original band. Well, a lot of bars, they weren't fucking with us for a while until we built up such a reputation, and we were bringing so many people that, you know, we were able to get into places where original bands should not have. Like, for instance, the Tin Lizard Bar at the Kansas Star Casino.
Right.
They, you know, at least at the time, they weren't having no one but cover bands. And, you know, For the Birds was, you know, leading that charge into having, hey, original bands in town, they have a voice too. And, you know, there's a lot of talented people in town.
Oh, this town is full of talent.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the East Coast, and I was very challenged to find as many good musicians or live music along the whole East Coast as what I can drive around town on a Friday, a Saturday, a Thursday, and just go hear some amazing talent.
Amazing talent. And it's not just bands, you know, it's rappers, singers, painters, graffiti artists. But to kind of answer the question you had asked me, it's not necessarily hard to be the artist that I'm becoming on my own.
Right.
It's more hard, I think, for artists as a whole in Wichita to play certain venues.
Right.
You know, there's definitely a gatekeeping aspect to some of these venues in town.
Yeah.
And I think that if Wichita, if we say we're about community and all this, you know, if legislature and all these people that are in power, that have money and influence, if they were really about culture and arts, it wouldn't be so exclusive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It would,
I do.
You know, it should be no question that, you know, if I wanted to, you know, I'll use hypothetically, if I wanted to play Century 2 with my band and 4 other bands, you know, that should be an option. You know, and if it is, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not for certain, but I'm just saying things like that, there shouldn't be so many hoops to jump through when a lot of these venues are only being operated on weekends anyways.
Right. And sometimes not even that.
And so,
I mean, how often does Intrust sit empty until a national act comes?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's insurance, and I'm sure there's a bunch of reasons why they would have it, but to me, you know, it doesn't equal, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people here, whether they're tenured, they've been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, or even newer people, everyone deserves a voice. And, you know, there's a lot of places in town that are just like, nah, you're not in the cool club. Like, nah, you don't have the money, nah.
I get that.
And it's just irritating.
Or it's a genre thing.
I
tried to have a benefit for someone, and the guy was a musician, and but the music that he plays happens to be really super loud, and a couple of the places that I called to see if we could have it there said, "Oh no. We don't want those kind of people around."
Okay, well, we've heard that too.
Those kind of people.
Yeah.
This guy's my friend. Does that make me those kind of people?
Right.
And what kind of people are we?
Right.
You know, and so it's funny. It's almost, some of it's almost segregated.
You know, and I hadn't even thought about it until you said something. So like, you know, we'll use For the Birds, for example. We have always had a hip-hop foundation, but it really wasn't until we added an actual MC, that being Thane, that we really started being seen as like, oh, hip-hop. Well, you know, since we've been doing this music, you know, there's definitely places that used to fuck with us that no longer do. And
I've noticed that.
And you know, they want to use the guys like, oh, it's the music. Like, no, a lot of it comes down to they have a preconceived notion about the fans. You know, a lot of our fans are younger.
Right.
They're not, you know, prim proper. You know, a lot of them are college kids. You know what I'm saying? And so I could see on one hand the business aspect, like, okay, they're kids, they're not going to be buying a lot of liquor, you know, because maybe they smoke weed or something. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, you want your place to be cool and, you know, and hip and shit, and you're not having people bring in, you know, that type of audience.
And we,
you know what I'm saying?
Only have like maybe one or two places here in Wichita that are really like an all age thing. Right. You know? Right. And there's hardly, you know, the guys that are doing that are groundbreaking. Yeah. And I think it's great. Yeah. But nothing's really open. I mean, you know, if you play a certain kind of music, you play over here. If you play a certain kind of music, well, you play over there. Yeah. And I'd like to see that change. Oh, absolutely. You know, there was the article about the money brought in to Wichita by the entertainment industry, by the arts, and it was just for the nonprofits, and it had some pretty big numbers on it. Yeah, it did. And that didn't include the private stuff. And so what do you think? How do we start integrating?
Start integrating like all genres of music? Yeah. You know, really, a lot of that comes down to, you know, the owners of these venues. You know, it starts with a heart change, you know, honestly. Absolutely. You know, not to sound woo-woo or whatever, but I think that's honest, you know, the truth. Like, if, for instance, if I owned a bar and I already have a preconceived notion about certain types of people and what music they may listen to, and let's say I don't particularly like being around those certain type of people, then I'm not going to allow bands that play that type of music to play at my establishment. Come in. And that's where the issue is some of these places, they don't realize, you know, that I'm not going to go there. But
it's almost like it's a personal club type deal.
It is a personal thing, yeah.
Oh, well, this is my bar, and I only like this. So
yeah. I mean, and, you know, honestly, that's fair. If you own a bar, you can do what the hell you want to do. But at the same time, if we're trying to make Wichita inclusive, you know, we need more help from venue owners, and a lot of them are the bigger owners. Yeah. You know. Yeah. You know, a lot of the dive bars have shown us a lot of love. You know.
Oh yeah, because you know they're open for business.
They're open for business.
They're open for business.
Yeah. You know. What, it's funny because, you know, back in the day when we were really hitting the dive bars, you know, the only question they were really asking us is, "Are you good? And can you bring people?" Right. They didn't really give a shit. You know. Now after the night's over, if we blew them out because we were playing too loud or whatever, then maybe they won't have us back, or maybe they'll talk to us about it. But it was never an issue of like, you know, the first question is, "Oh, what kind of music do you play?" Right. With a certain type of attitude. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Filling you out to see if you fit their idea of
you
what
play hip-hop?
Entertainment is.
Well.
And that's crazy to have to say.
You can go down there. Yeah, it's weird.
Somebody's idea of entertainment, I thought it was all entertainment.
It's all entertainment. And it's all based on the blues. Well, yeah. It all is. Metal, rock, funk, hip-hop. Everything is based on the blues. You know what I mean?
Blues and the gospel. The gospel are the blues. So that's where a lot of the blues starts from. Yeah. So, you know, and the funny part is it's almost like, you know, they're using music to divide us. And that to me is a really rough concept, because we have all these things that we're divided by. We're divided by color. We're divided by sex. We're divided by religion. We're divided by location.
Class.
We're divided by sexual orientation. And now we're divided by music. Yeah. And it's like, where does this stop? Because I'm pretty sure if you bleed, you're going to bleed the same color as me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And how does anybody grow or learn about something new if they don't get to try it? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, coming from my background, I mean, you know, I'm an 80s child. Okay, so we were all about the metal. Metal, still all about the metal.
Yeah.
But yet I love your music.
Yeah.
You know? And for me personally, I took the time to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
But I think if we could broaden the market so that everybody could play and give people a chance to try something new.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Would be like an absolutely amazing thing. We actually have a board for the city of Wichita for arts and culture. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I don't know how many people
Maybe Aaron might have told me about
actually
it.
know that. Now, I do know people know it.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, when I found out that it was out there, I was like, well, what do they do? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, because I really don't see why Wichita couldn't be as monumental as Memphis,
Yeah.
as Austin,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I just don't see why we couldn't be that kind of movement here in Wichita.
I don't understand it
It's available
because we have the talent and we have more than enough bands to represent, you know,
all the different.
Yeah, but the problem is we don't all know about them because 80% of them aren't getting gigs. You know,
Yeah.
and of that 20%, only 10% I would, you know, roughly using rough math, is probably getting, you know, decently paid, you know,
Yeah.
in frequent gigs.
Yeah,
You
well,
know.
and a lot of times, just to get exposure, they go do the open jams.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and it's great exposure because I've seen stuff come together and gone, yeah, that's a good mix right there. I like that. You know, and have it come out to be something, but they're not getting paid.
no,
You know, for that.
no.
I look around when I go to the open jams and I see a lot of the musicians, but I don't see the other bar owners. Wouldn't that be like a place to go find new talent? You know, if I would think if I was a bar owner, I would want to go scout out. I don't
Like go to your own shows or go to other bars?
or go to like the open jams and you know, see new talent, see who's out there playing. I know it kind of gets sometimes, I feel like, into a rut around here because
Yeah, it can.
you know, you've got X amount playing at X amount of bars,
Yep.
and it's kind of the same a lot of the times.
Right.
I mean, and the bands have great followings, but you know, I like you guys, but I don't want to see you guys every weekend.
You know, we've
Just
definitely
saying.
definitely worn out our welcome, you know, before by playing frequently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm you know, I'm not ungrateful by any stretch of the
absolutely
imagination.
not,
but I see
but-
what you're saying on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
You
You
know.
know, I mean, I've kind of quit really going anywhere just because I've already heard all of it,
Right.
you know, and I've heard all of it a lot of times.
No, yeah.
And
yeah.
so I'm thinking, okay, I want to hear something new, you know, and I'm not really sure where to go to hear something new, you know. I've delved into new genres. That's been a good way to expand, and it just, I just wonder why. It's like, why don't people know? And What do you think it would be keeping these bands that are together from not playing gigs? Is it equipment? Is it fear, like you said earlier?
Yeah, if it's a newer band, fear can definitely be an issue. I know a lot of talented people that don't have any bands, but
Yeah.
they're just not. There's definitely structure and order that needs to be in place, like the very bare minimum in order to play a live gig as a band. Like y'all got to practice, y'all got to know the music.
Yeah.
Y'all should at least rehearse a few times. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that can hold back a band a lot. But I think a lot of it also is just fear.
Fear.
I got friends that are very, very talented, and they've told me, in so many words, it's pride. They don't want to say it's fear, but I know quite a few guys that they've told me in so many words, like, hey, I've always, this is my forest.
Right.
Getting out and putting myself out there, and it's like, dude, that's my forest too.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
There's a quote my dad, he used to say to me sometimes. He'd say, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
And I try to apply that to everything in my life.
Right.
Anything that's hard, it's like, man, this sucks. And I just remember, like, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing this. Because why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that comes back to diving into that dark forest and facing that thing
Facing
you
that
don't
fear.
want to face.
Yeah.
But I just really, I don't know. It's things that I've kind of wondered about for a while, and I've been watching you now this year.
Uh-huh.
And I've watched your YouTube really grow.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I check in on it every so often just to see where you're at. And I've used Elevate, pieces of Elevate maybe 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And I've used pieces of Meditate maybe 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And every time I use it, use one of those, the reel automatically, it's like hitting 400s, 500 views.
Wow.
And I'm sitting here going, wow. And I had one that got almost 600 views. And I took pictures of things that I was painting, is all it was. It was like an iron sign and this trellis. I was painting the trellis for the podcast, and I thought, oh, well, everybody'd like to see what I'm doing for the set. And I took pictures. And so I was just trying to learn how to create, because the reels and all of that is almost a whole different form of expression.
Absolutely.
And so I put those pictures together of the things I was painting, and it started suggesting music, and I was like, no, let's throw some IC on here. And I threw the
Great
beginning
choice.
part of Meditate on, and next thing I know, I'm getting a notification that it had like 559 views. And I was like, wow. I mean, because it was nothing,
Right.
really,
Right.
honestly.
Uh-huh.
So it had to have been the music that attracted him, I mean, because I was new. I don't automatically pop up. Usually people have to look for me, or I come up in my friends' things. And to see that one, and then I found this meme that was really cool, and I used your little guitar lick from Elevate.
Oh yeah, the solo.
Oh yeah, that sucker's got 400 and something views.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, wow, okay.
That's
there
cool.
we go. Let's, But and kind of the meme that I found was kind of along the lines of Elevate. It was about learning a life lesson, and once you learn it, you don't go backwards.
Right, exactly.
So I felt like it was appropriate to use the Elevate. So what you got coming up in November?
So I have 2 songs that are completed, and I'm not going to jinx it because this has happened before, but I'm planning on dropping both the beginning and the end of November.
Right. Nice.
So be on the lookout for that. I'll be posting on my socials that information. And then as far as gigs, we're playing the 4th, the 11th, and the 18th. The 4th and the 18th are at the Green Derby.
At where?
The Green Derby in Derby, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
And then the 11th will be at Mad Rocks.
At Mad Rocks.
In Derby.
They're in Derby.
Yeah,
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, where do we find you?
So you can find me. I had all the social medias, but it's very mentally draining.
It's hard to keep up with all of it, isn't it?
Well, and not even just that. It's a big distraction.
It really is.
You know what I'm saying?
I find myself, and what's worse is now I use the podcast to justify it. I'm like, oh, well,
I see what you're saying.
I got to check out YouTube
Yep.
and see how my channel's doing.
That's exactly.
And,
yep.
then I have people in comments and new subscribers. So then I have to go interact with that.
Yep.
And then I'll pop into Facebook, do the whole scroll thing and check over the alternative voice page and new subscribers. And, they're always telling you have to, you need to be responding to all of this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just spent 6 hours on Facebook.
So I found a video, and it was a random, like, how to be a social media influencer. It was like some how-to video or something.
Right, right.
Well, the guy was saying, he was like, everyone thinks you need to have fucking 6 social media, Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah. He was like, really, you just need 2. And it needs to be 2 that you do really well and you enjoy.
Yeah.
It doesn't need, like, obviously nowadays, Instagram and TikTok are very popular. But if those aren't your things, then you need to use something that is your thing.
Yeah,
so
see, I won't
I
use
only
TikTok.
have 2 now.
Yeah.
So I have my Facebook. You can look me up, ICIV, or you can friend request me, IC Collins IV. And then my YouTube is ICIV Music. And those are the only 2 I got.
Yeah.
Will it stay that way? I don't know. But, I use those the most.
Hopefully, as you grow, you'll have somebody that can handle that.
Yeah.
That would be the nice thing. Yeah. See, I have my YouTube, and I have my Facebook.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is kind of just automatically connected these days to
Right.
Facebook. So
Right.
I don't think I even really look. I have Instagram, but I don't think I really look at it. Now it's one of the places I've picked up, surprisingly enough, the most followers.
Really?
Yeah. But I won't do TikTok. I don't like some of the things that they show.
Oh, yeah.
I don't consider it to be appropriate. Well, no. They've got some stuff on there. I had a friend go, "Ooh, Val, look at this," and they put the phone in my face, so I was looking at it whether I wanted to or not.
Right.
And it happened to be a wreck.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure the person driving, if they lived, it's a miracle.
Oh, wow.
And I sat there looking at that person going, why are you watching this? Because that ain't right.
It was recommended to me.
And the fact that they would allow that on that platform just made me go, no, I don't want to be associated with that. So I just stick to Facebook and YouTube. But, well, it was good chatting with you.
Yeah, you too.
I look forward to seeing some more
Absolutely.
from you and seeing how it grows. And I want to keep the lines of communication open. Maybe we can start doing something about changing the scenarios here in Wichita.
Oh yeah, I'm cool with that.
To be more inclusive. To the different genres, and maybe even getting people to come out and listen to something they don't always listen to.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
well, it was good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.